And we are live.
Amazing. Yeah, welcome to DIAC Day. Hope everyone's having a good day. So DIAC Day, just very quickly before we kick off, is a series that we're doing speaking to builders in the DIAC space. What is DIAC? It's defensive acceleration, which is a term coined by Vitalik in his 2023 essay on My Techno-Optimism, which was a response to the sort of techno-optimist essays and things going around. I think the first one was by A16Z, and essentially it's a call to, yes, let's accelerate technology, but do so in a slightly cautious, defensive, democratic, decentralized, differential way. Really recommend checking out that essay. And today we have an amazing builder here who I absolutely love chatting with, and therefore also asked Victoria to join because it's so much fun to chat with Alexei always. So welcome, Alexei from NIM. Can you just quickly tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're building?
Yeah, so thank you. So now the pressure is like super high if I have both of you here. So I'm Alexei Roussel. I work at NIM Technologies. I'm a lawyer by trade, but I work on digital rights, and I work in the crypto space in Switzerland for now more than 10 years, more than 10 years. And so right now we're building a mixnet, which is a application to obfuscate the traffic between two people, the communication between two points in the network, so that this communication is not observable. And based on this infrastructure, we build some tools which are a bit more accessible to people. So we have a VPN which is built on top of this mixnet, for example. So that's like so I'm the COO of NIM Technologies, and the website is nim.com, and you can go there and you can read all the documentation about it. And on the side, I'm also active in Switzerland as a privacy activist, or also privacy, critic. I mean, in Switzerland on how the technology critic for how Switzerland is doing things. So I'm participating into a lot of initiatives or a consultation process which are related to privacy in general, either in the communication level but also on the financial level. I'm pretty active in the financial sector, also to make sure that we don't build what we are currently building, which is a dystopian machine that is storing all the data that we as humans produce. Right? And they do this by they enforcing this in the law right now. So it's a bit scary. And so I'm trying to prevent that, both on the civil side, on the activism side, and also on the technical side with the tools that we. So I wrote a book which is called Our Precious Digital Integrity, and I coined a concept which is called the right to digital integrity, which is a legal concept that helps to shift how the governments are viewing the relationship with the citizen in the digital space. Until now, they see it as they see it that the digital space is not a real space. It's somewhere where you have a lot of data. Everyone is putting data, and they just can take the data as they want, because some might think it's data is an object. Some might think data is part of the public good. So they're building right now, even in democracies, they're building surveillance states because the data is just available, so they can take it. And so the fact of coining the right to digital integrity is to say, well, actually, this data is not something you can just grab, because this data is part of people. It is actually people. And so you have to apply the same logic of human rights that came from the Enlightenments, or fundamental rights that came from the Enlightenment since 200 years. You have to apply the same logic also to the digital space, and that's the key of my work. And one element that connects the philosophy, legal philosophy, and the actual tech, is that basically it all goes around anonymity. So anonymity is what is if a government wants to actually respect your digital self, he shouldn't know anything about it, and should allow you to remain anonymous in personal relationship. Of course, when you are dealing with the government, they know about you. But if you are just like existing in the society, if you're buying stuff, or if you are just looking at information, you should remain anonymous. And so what I'm trying to build is both the legal concept of anonymity, and also with NIM, I joined the team that is working on the technical concept of anonymity.
Yeah, as you know, a huge fan of your work, and maybe also, especially in this context of Switzerland and how we got to know each other a little bit, I'm curious to dig in. So this right to anonymity concept that you're working on, it's something you're working on specifically in Switzerland, or as a general principle? And I'm just curious to connect also to what's happening in Switzerland at the moment with some of the changes that I'm sure also affected NIM, and what your take is kind of on that whole setup and where things are going in Switzerland.
So I mean, on the conceptual level, I think it's like my work works in any country that is fundamentally built on human rights principle, or like so yeah, it might not work everywhere, because in the societies there are societies that have different views on how individuals see each other. I mean, in China it's more collective, and which means that they don't have the how they view the individual. They accept much more that you sacrifice part of yourself or a part of your privacy for the greater good. While in Europe, it will be first we need to like really have a base where every individual has to be pushed into a place where he's as autonomous as he can. Of course, if he cannot go be autonomous, we can help him. But and there's some social construct around that really is like so. I wouldn't say it applies maybe everywhere. There's definitely possibly a cultural bias in my work, but at least it's something that can push the narrative of saying, well, you should not collect data on people in a way that at least in countries like Switzerland and around, people understand. So as soon as I come with this narrative saying, well, you cannot hurt people, that it kind of shifts. I'm using concepts that they are familiar with, so it supports it supports a formal right of anonymity in a language that most people would understand here. And so that's why I'm getting some success, at least in the way this is spreading in Switzerland. So how it's spreading in Switzerland is really weird. So it has this fundamental, fantastic element, which it has a very vivid politics, which individuals or small group can really like make their voice heard, and they can. If you reach the consensus, if you understand how consensus is working, and if you reach the consensus, you can shift things very quickly. And so I pushed the right to digital integrity in Geneva and Neuchâtel, and then suddenly the people, it just like we had a scenario where we really touched the consensus, and then it was put up to the vote, and people voted with more than 90% to agree on that. So that was amazing. So it happened 2 years ago, last year. We had this momentum, which was quite incredible. But then we also made an initiative in Zurich with the same thing, And the result was completely opposite. People refused it. So we didn't reach consensus there. So that was a few weeks ago. It's a bit sad, but I mean, it's just a small setback because it will continue in other cantons. But it means that the way you're bringing a topic is very important, is very sensitive. And either you can have on the same topic, you can have everyone agreeing, and then you go to another canton. Just the way you bring it is a bit different, and then everyone is against it. But now it's part of the process. So that's a good part. The bad part is that Switzerland is blocked into a fantasy of digitization with like surveillance built in. They want to everything they do. They want to have like services and tools that surveils everyone, and they really don't care about the law, and they don't care about. Well, they say they care, but in practice they don't care.
When you say, sorry, Alexis, to interrupt, but when you say they don't care, is it like who are they?
I would say they is the establishment that is capable of taking decisions and implementing projects, whatever it is. Okay. So it's a mixture between politics, between civil servants, and between corporations in Switzerland who are tech corporation who have access to the public offer schemes, right? Who get the public tenders, right? The ones who are participating in building those things. So that's a whole. It's a very large group. When I say they, is so the people who are actually doing right now in Switzerland, right?
And that's particularly, we're seeing that particularly around the EID, right?
Yeah,
that's
so
the
that's
example
very good
you're
example.
referring to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The EID was a great example for this. So where indeed politicians in Bern were convinced that we have to do this, and you don't know why, because when you say, but why do we need this? And the answer usually that you get, some people will try to give some stupid examples, but usually they say, oh, we don't have a choice. If we don't do it, then someone else will do it, like Google will do it for us. It will be forced upon us, and so we just don't have a choice, which is a bit weird, because you don't do things just because you don't have a choice. You can actually think about it, and I think we have a choice in doing EID or not. And this is supported by a bunch of companies, for example, who when they saw the project of EID, they were like, of course, we'll make tons of money with this, right? Because we'll have to implement. And so then and because when the guys who are making the law, they talk to, okay, who is going to implement? Oh, we're going to talk to those companies who will be implementing this. Yeah. And so they add stuff in the law, which is so convenient for the companies. For example, in the EID law, you have one article that says that every institution in Switzerland, every administration is forced to implement EID. So even if the EID is voluntary for the user, for the citizen, all the administrations are forced to have an EID. Why would you do this if it's just for giving money to the private sector? I don't know. I think it's like, if it's not mandatory, and they were claiming it was not mandatory, then you should let everyone pick it up if they want to, even the administrations, and for them they saw it as normal. So you have these kind of like quirks in the law, which were really weird, and there's some others. So basically, they're like moving the needle, and they say it's not mandatory first, and then eventually it will become mandatory. Two things happen.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So what is interesting, we start to see a small, so people in general in Switzerland were quite supportive of this approach until recently, and now it's slowly a change. And I think COVID was like the moment that shift. And we can see what happened here. So the law passed, right? So it was voted. So we have a referendum, and they were shocked that we were able to do the referendum, because they said everyone agrees. Why would you do a referendum? Then there were some polls, and the polls were saying that the people would accept EID with 65%. So like a very overwhelming acceptance. And then when the vote came, it was only 50.3. I mean, it's like, or 50, it was like 20,000 votes difference between the yes and the no.
Wow.
Things like this. It was so small. And basically they were shocked. Like the people in Bern, they were shocked. They even invited me the next day to explain a bit my view on there. And now it's the worst possible scenario, because they will have to spend a lot of money into making this acceptable for people, because they didn't find, they see that there was no real consensus in Switzerland. And then all the trouble will come, because they will try to make something which is acceptable for the people. They will spend a lot of money and it will fail. And so they will go to the next step. And here, in order to see what the next step is, in a few years, we can see the health care system in Switzerland. In Switzerland, we have what it's called an electronic patient file. I don't know, it's or e-health or like system, right? And they did it the same way. They did it voluntary. They say, yeah, if you want one, you can have one, and that's it, right? And it's a big failure, because only 1% of the people got one. So it's a total failure. And they spend a lot of money in there. So instead of saying, well, it's a failure, maybe because people don't want it, what they do, they say, well, okay, we're going to make a new system. We change the name, because, like if it's change the name, it allows people to forget the old one. And then we're going to make it mandatory for all the doctors, so they have to implement it. And we are going to make it opt out for the people. So it's not mandatory, but you have to opt out, right?
But it's practically
so it will happen also with the EID. At one point, the EID, if it's failing in the current state, they will come up with a new law saying, okay, now it's opt out. You can still go out, but it will be better if you do so. And I'm trying to fight this system. And for example, one very practical way of fighting is this. And this is a good example. In both of these laws, they usually put financial discrimination systems in place. So if you are using the electronic system, it will be cheaper for you as an end user than if you go to the paper version or if you go to the traditional version. And so obviously that makes a difference for some people, and they will say, well, I can get the EID for free, and it will give me a discount when I'm using public services and so this is a way to lure people into using this. And with the right to digital integrity, which comes with the right to an offline life, what I hope is that we are going to be able to fight this discrimination, saying no, because it's a fundamental right to have an offline life. You cannot make a financial discrimination to force to push people into the digital way. And that will cut off for them they're like one of their key arguments in order to push those digital systems.
Maybe let's switch a little bit the topic from like Switzerland specific, and turn more towards your work and how it ties into the bigger DIAC philosophy. Because for me, it's so interesting. Every time I speak to you, you are, on the one side working on a very DIAC technology in itself, you could say, but also like the way as a lawyer and as like actively trying to shape politics in Switzerland. The way how you do it also aligns very well with the values. So maybe you can share your personal understanding of DIAC and how you see it connects with you personally.
Yeah, no. So I think personally, I was always a DIAC person, even before it existed, in the sense that we are not going to have any help in building those privacy technologies, right? So right now, there is no government, there is no society which is going to build up incentive mechanisms so that fundamentally this society is going to make things, make privacy a valuable thing, something good, right? So there's no incentive if you are doing, like, if you go to the normal school, if you go to the normal businesses, there is zero incentive to make something which is privacy friendly or like to protect people, basically. The more you can extract data, the more you can extract value. And so so, and then there's few things that needs to happen. And I think one of the things that we can make in DIAC, it's my where I'm convinced, is that if you are using enough privacy and anonymity solution to go around with your life and to go around, especially with your business, my assumption, my bet is that people or companies who will use privacy tools will have a competitive advantage and will earn more than companies that don't. And we can kind of already see that, because if you are a company that is collecting data, eventually your data will leak. So, and right now the cost of this is very small, because like you have leaks every day and people don't care. Okay. so you don't have, there is still not much incentive of like not leaking data because people don't care. But with time, you can see that there is still like fines are coming in, and society is less accepting it slowly. I wish it would be faster, but yeah. So what I hope is like some other companies like ours, for example, when we are selling a VPN, we are not asking any questions to the user. So we don't know anything of you, but what we use methods of payments and so we use the first principle is like not collect data that you don't need. So you don't collect it at all. And the second thing is that we are using methods of payments like cryptocurrencies, or even further like privacy coins like Zcash, Monero, where then the person, we know that we receive the money, we can give access to the VPN, and we know that the person has the service, and it's all good. We don't need any other information. So it's really like you can define, you can build your business interaction with your clients in a way that that you don't take any data from them, and they will gain something from this. Why? Because right now, if they are coming with some transparent system, and they and you are using like big platforms, actually, because with all the data which is sucked from the advertising platform and the big platform, all this data is actually a way to take value from the relationship between two individuals or two companies, or a company and a client. So if you're right now selling an object online, and that you are using all the surveillance capitalism tools, there is roughly a tax of 30% that will go away. By, I don't know, if you're a taxi driver, it's taken by Uber. If you're an apartment renter, it's taken by Airbnb, and so on. And there's a roughly 30% that just goes away. But if you have a private interaction directly with your customer, then those 30% can stay with you. And the challenge is to build this relationship in a way that it is as secure as what is Uber promising or Airbnb promising. Because of course, Airbnb and Uber, these are two examples, but they come up with a whole stack of tools that secures the relationship between there's a centralized entity that kind of like gives this security, which you pay. And but I think we can achieve a lot similar things in a private way, using a reputation mechanism, using escrow escrow services that are algorithmic. So you cannot cheat them. You don't have a person that is involved, or maybe you can use like a community elements, whatever. The few things that you can use to build these kind of like similar mechanism, but then there's no data. It's like really private. And I think my bet is that in the future, like part of the society will go into that direction, and hopefully will make more money than the other. So then at the end, investors, that's also there. Investors will put their money on the privacy side rather on the transparency side, because they will make more money over there. So that's kind of like long-term thing, and that's why I'm building also in that direction. But the risk now is that the states, when they see this, for them it's terrible, because they have been building surveillance tools where for any kind of interaction, text interaction, communications, whatever, anything needs to be monitored, because they have the tools to do so. And so when you're starting to go outside of this, they're freaking out, and then they're adding rules. So, for example, we have a new rule in Switzerland, which is in the works. They might change their view, because it's not very popular, and I'm going to discuss with people in Bern next week on this. But basically, they made a new surveillance law that even if you are like an email provider, a VPN provider, you need to ask the ID of the people, even from 5,000 users, which is like ridiculously low. So they just don't want. They're completely afraid of the society where things happen privately. But the thing is that
I want to pick up on that, because like that, Switzerland, we're building a lot of our thesis and the reason we want to be in Switzerland around the fact that it is a very DX society. And one of those things was, until now, pretty good protection of privacy, especially in the digital realm. And I feel like this new rule is quite a threat to that, and it seems like it's also a threat to the tech ecosystem. I'm just kind of curious, like how optimistic you are that we're going to get the change we need, and where you see things going in the next year or two.
I don't know. Will, it's my thoughts were first that they were going to push it under the rug, just like, because there was overwhelming like a bad reception of this law. And basically they kind of did this because there was like an answer. They said, we're going to review the law but first we'll make an audit. We're making an impact analysis of the new law first. And we'll say, well, you should have done that already at the beginning. But so they kind of freaked out, and they're going to review this. What is good in Switzerland is that fundamentally the people, or the way the society is structured, doesn't like they sometimes let these things go into a place, put in place, but then in the reality you have the Swiss way of implementing this. Meaning, for example, we have a censorship law that can allow some institution to censor internet for DNS, and it forces all ISP to do this. And there's only Swisscom who actually does it, like the biggest, because they cannot like say, oh, we shouldn't do it. But if you go to these smaller ones, I have a small ISP at home, and there's like zero censorship. So they don't care. And who is going to go after them? Like, you should censor internet. So there is this kind of like then back to reality, where usually people they will only like do it in a certain way that's kind of like save face, but in reality people will still continue to do their stuff. So I don't know exactly how it's going to, in what direction it's going to go, but for sure is that I know that the companies in Switzerland will not comply to these kind of rules, because it doesn't make sense. And the thing is that because we are building privacy tech, we can actually run those services without even anyone knowing it if we want, right? So we can just like run them, and there's no way for them to actually enforce it. So it's a weird place. So we will go down the rabbit hole of surveillance in Switzerland. But we are going to go down in a way where we are building the next step, and we are building the logic and the discussions, and we are being critics, and we are showing what is wrong. And people on the other side, they're getting more and more trouble because they want to do surveillance, but they have less and less arguments. In other countries, they will just do it and they will just move on, right? And my prediction is that every country in the world will go down the route of like bad surveillance systems. They will not have they won't have a choice, because if you take like countries which are far away, I don't know, Latin America, whatever, at one point they will be pressured by companies like Palantir and some other big companies, and that will take over the society, the way the government is working. And we already see this happening. Palantir is taking over health systems, military systems. And so for governments, at one point, they will have no choice than to concede to those companies. And we'll have to build what is coming next, is that like getting rid of those form of governments, the governments that caved in. Maybe some pieces of it will resist and they will be on our side. But we'll have to define the new forms. And I think Switzerland is the place where these kind of discussions and experiments can happen.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you sound cautiously optimistic there. It's definitely been on my mind, and when we were heading to DevConnect, I was at the airport with a bunch of other Swissies, and it was definitely like the topic of conversation, like, so are we leaving? Or so I really hope.
I'm an optimistic by nature, because it's my way of coping. So I know it's going to get bad, but it will be worse in other countries than in Switzerland. That's what I say. I mean, so Switzerland is a place where if you talk to the people, you find some arrangements at the end, right? So they're not going to throw us in jail because we do privacy tech here. For now.
For now, yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear. And I agree from what I've observed so far. I definitely am a huge fan of how things work here in Switzerland, and could spend many more hours on that topic. But I think, like, usually we try to keep these relatively short. So yeah, maybe just one kind of question we always like to ask is, like, who is someone that's building in the DX space that you really admire and that we should potentially consider having on?
So for me, it's very easy. It's Rose O'Leary from DarkFi, and also like the LunaPunk. She worked a lot on the LunaPunk ethos. So yeah, for me, so she's working with Amir, and they are working on something which is really important. I hope it will come to fruition.
Fruition.
Fruition. Thank you. But basically, DarkFi itself is a series of tools to create an organization, like a work organization or an NGO, whatever type of organization. You have like tools to self-organize. So you have a chat, or you have a kind of Slack type of communication system. You have they want to build like a calendar, task manager, but they also embedded in the whole system. You have smart contracts, and you have voting, which is of course included. All of this in one piece that has something specific, is that it's totally invisible from the outside. So it's an anonymous DAO, basically. They are the ones which are the closest to build the anonymous DAO that includes all the tooling. So you are part of a DAO, but from the outside, no one can see all the how big is that DAO, how much money it has, or whatever. And so that's going to be important in the future. Like when you were building an organization, I wish I could have these kind of tools now for a normal company. You're building, I don't know, you're building a very normal company. I don't know, you're building a fiduciary, you're going to service people, or you have a consulting company, and basically you create your company with those anonymous tools, and which means that you still can register at the government, whatever. You can still do the legal stuff, but it's up to you to do. It's what is called privacy by design. So this is a key principle in privacy, where it's about you to disclose the data. It's not about someone coming and picking up the data if they can. It's you giving the data if you want to. And so I'm not a non-status person. I don't want to destroy the state. I want to see it evolve. But for example, I do think that currently, right now, I mean, we have a business registry, for example. And I think it does serve a certain purpose. Maybe it should be different, probably, but right now we have it. But I want to be in a position where if I talk to the business registry, it's up to me to give the data. They don't need to. They shouldn't be able to read data from me automatically. I gave the data. I gave the update when I know when things are happening. Same with the banks, and same with other kind of institutions. So selective disclosure, that's a key thing that we can build up in our daily tools, and that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I heard someone on a panel recently saying it's not I have nothing to hide, it's I have nothing to disclose, and I think that's absolutely perfect and sums that up. A huge fan.
Your building is like this, yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get Rose and Amir on. Thank you for nominating them. And yeah, I'm excited about that tooling as well. We tried with Switzerland, when we were setting up the team, to figure out like which software can we use that's as privacy preserving and sort of sovereign as possible. And it's surprisingly like there's some amazing things out there, but then to kind of find what you need and the UX to be acceptable to the team and stuff, it's really hard. So we really definitely need to accelerate this and invest a lot more into it. Final question, I think, would be just what's something that you want to leave people with that's really important, and which handles or links should they check out if they want to get in touch?
Of course, they should check out our MixNet at NIM, how it works. It's pretty amazing technology because it's really like the first technology where you can build anonymity. And what is interesting with the anonymity, which is sometimes also a bit troubling in our communities, is that privacy is mostly seen as an individual thing. Like I hide and I encrypt messages with someone else, so we have a private conversation. But in reality, if you want to be anonymous, which is a bit more than private, or you need it to be private also, anonymity needs a group within in which you can hide. And the MixNet is exactly like this. It's a group of computers. It's a network of computers which all are collaborating, and we have a very strong community of operators which are collaborating to create this network, and they create noise. And so this community allows you as an individual to send message through and to hide through this noise farm machine, whatever, which is a collective effort. So it's really interesting because we have a lot of people in our space which are very extremely hyper-liberal, individualistic people, which is fine. But we see that actually building all these tech and actually also building all this infrastructure is a very collective thing. And to achieve anonymity, it's even more collective than we might think on other platforms. So it's a mixture. It's a mix. You have to do the two. You can remain, thanks to privacy, you can remain individual, but you can remain individual only in a group that is providing the anonymity set, what it's called the anonymity set, which needs to be big enough so that you are completely hidden in this big anonymity set. And so you have this meme, you know, where you see like one big fish trying to get a small fish, and then the next frame you see a lot of small fishes that forming a big fish and like eating the bigger fish. And I think that talks about also like how powerful anonymity is. Once you're in a group and you're anonymous, you are actually much stronger than the big fish. So yeah, please go on nim.com to see how the mixer is working. Try it out, and you can follow me on X. I'm Alexis_Roussel, and yeah, that's and we're on Telegram. There's like a large community on Telegram. And I'm also in certain groups on Signal if people are in those deep hidden privacy groups in Signal. I'm in few of them.
Cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alexi, for coming on and sharing your experience and also your perspective on Switzerland and the politics
You're welcome.
there.
It's always a pleasure. So see you very soon in real life also.
Yes.
Yes. As always, amazing. Thank you, Alexi. Great to have you on.
Thank you.